Hello, welcome to this video, and on this video I'm going to be going through 10 albums that I should love, but I don't love. And I don't know why. Well, when I say I don't know why, it's not going to be a very good video if I don't know why. So I'm going to attempt to tell you why I don't love them. Now, this doesn't mean I hate them, right? These are albums, I think every one of these albums is like you could class as a masterpiece. It's like, these are classic albums. It's not just random albums that, you know, by a band I like and don't like them that much. This is real classic stuff. And I've tried to like them and I've listened to them, but I in some cases I really don't like them, and I'll tell you that. In some cases I do quite like them, but not to the level that everyone else seems to like. I don't love them, right? Some of these albums are by my favourite bands, and some of them are bands that I should like, but I don't like. Okay, so you understand the premise, don't you? Are you ready to go? Right, let's go straight in. 1 minute. 1 minute for those people say I waffle on. 1 minute, and I'm starting now at number 10. At number 10, in this, which is sort of ranked. Well, the number one is definitely number one, but it's not really ranked. But it doesn't matter. You can pretend it's ranked. So at number one, I've got Porn Hearts by Van der Graaf Generator. Okay. There's a whole list of classic prog bands: Genesis, Yes, King Crimson, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Gentle Giant, Gong, Soft Machine, Hatfield of the North, Caravan. I like all of those bands, but one of the big ones is Van der Graaf Generator. And then on top of that, Van der Graaf Generator is liked by proper prog fans, right? It's like another level up of prog. Right, so I think, well, I'm going to love this, aren't I? You know, they're called Van der Graaf Generator. You know, they've got Peter Hammill singing, who is a bit of a genius, who's not only been very influential in the world of prog, but also he's influenced people like John Lydon, influenced the whole punk thing. He's influenced people like Bruce Dickinson, influenced the whole heavy metal thing. He's an incredibly important artist. This is a very important band. I should love Van der Graaf Generator. Okay, now when you look, there's many people say certain albums are great albums, but there's one album, Porn Hearts, that comes out over and over again as being their greatest album. Comes out in the classic prog period. It is a very innovative and influential album. Now, on top of that, when I was coming up as a kid, one of the tunes that I absolutely loved was the theme that was played on the Fright Night Rock Show by Tommy Vance. And that was a tune by Van der Graaf Generator. It was a cover of a George Martin tune. And I love their version. Their version's better than the George Martin version. And that recording comes from the same session as Porn Hearts. And at some point in my, earlier life, that was the logic that I went by. I went, I'm going to listen to a Van der Graaf Generator album that I will love them because they're prog. This one, Porn Hearts, it's got a whole side-long track on it, and it's got theme one. They did that. Now they did it. They've added it now. But back when I was a kid, if bought the vinyl, they wouldn't have had it on. So at some point, I checked this album out. I didn't like it. Now, to say I hated it would be a bit much. Every now and then, they get into a riff that's okay. There's a darkness in these riffs that you can hear King Crimson-esque stuff going on. There's aspects where I can hear Genesis in what they're doing. And so I can hear all the influences. Now, why don't I like it? Well, the obvious thing would be to say that Peter Hammill's voice is an acquired taste, isn't it? Now, I first came across Peter Hammill on the album Exposure by Robert Fripp, and I thought he was incredible on that. Really incredible, and I loved his voice. I don't think it's that. I think it's this. The reason I don't like it is because it doesn't have that sort of virtuoso element that I'm used to with other prog bands, which brought me to prog. It doesn't have great production. It doesn't sound like it's recorded that well to me. And it never seems to get out of this sort of sludgy first gear. And I think the way you appreciate Van der Graaf Generator amongst all the prog bands is Peter Hammill's lyrics. I think there's a lyrical quality which is very, British, but fantastical in the sort of James Joyce, T.S. Eliot type of way. Now, I have no appreciation of things like that at all. I just don't get it at all. And that's my fault, but I don't understand stuff like that. You know, when I read something, I read it for the meaning. And I can be very moved by the meaning, but I'm not bothered about the language. I can't appreciate flowery language. Now, John Anderson does it, yes, and I love it because the actual music's wonderful. This music's dark and sludgy, and I think there's a certain tendency in prog to try and come across as being serious by acting all dark and sludgy. So that is the real reason. I think with Van der Graaf Generator and Porn Hearts, if I had it on CD and I stuck it in the car and I gave it 2 weeks, I'd be interested to see what would happen. I have a funny thing, because usually I can really turn, if I just listen to something over and over again, my brain usually finds what's great about it. And I have a belief if you're talking about an album 50 years later, there's got to be something good in it, and I will find it. So I do believe there's good in all these albums. It's just that I don't quite get it. The other aspect, of course, is when you hear it. You know, I heard Yes when I was about 12, 13 years old. By the time I was 14, 15, I'd heard every single prog band except Gentle Giant and Van der Graaf Generator. I heard those later, but I have to say, when I heard Gentle Giant for the first time, I was like, oh my God, this is the best prog band. I wish I'd heard this when I was 13 years old. But when I listened to Van der Graaf Generator, I didn't think that. Right, so I'm now moving on to number 9. I can't see it now because I've had to clean my glasses because they're all foggy. That's a bit better. I can see you now. Right, so at number 9, I've got Live Dead by the Grateful Dead. Now, I don't like the Grateful Dead, right? They did an album called Blues for Allah. That's okay. I don't mind that. I could have that album and quite like it. They did one called Terrapin Station, which is wonderful. It's like really great American prog. It's proper prog, and it's played well. It's produced well. Now, if I Google the greatest album by the Grateful Dead, number 1 is always this Live Dead album. And I sort of know enough about Grateful Dead is that you have to appreciate the live stuff. The second one after that is American Beauty, which just sounds like a bunch of, twangy Americana to me. But Live Dead, I put it on today, right? When it starts, right, so they start by tuning up, don't they? So they're tuning up, and then they keep tuning up. And you think, well, they'll get in tune in a minute, because they're spending a long time tuning up. But they're tuning up, very twangy. Production's awful. It sounds like it's recorded about 3 mics stuck randomly in the room. But they're getting tuning. I'll start in a minute. Some blokes played a double bass, twanging along, tuning up, twanging along. And this eventually grows into something that basically sounds like a country band jamming whose minds have been blasted by hard drugs. That's what it slowly turns into, and settles into this long jam. And how this track, which is called Dark Star, it's like their most famous tune, how anybody can say that this is even a tune. Because what this sounds like is every single band I was in when I was a kid, and you go and book a rehearsal room, and you weren't good enough to learn any songs, so you twang away you would for about half an hour. And it was very exciting, but also a bit boring after a while. When you first started, it was amazing, but you couldn't turn it into anything. You weren't able to make it move or go anywhere because you just didn't have those types of skills. Now, the thing that then is the icing on the cake for this is that once they get there, it sounds like there's 2 guitarists soloing, and it's just this endless Mixolydian mode. It's just the Mixolydian mode. And the thing with the Mixolydian mode is that when someone plays in the Mixolydian mode, I always think, people think this is exotic. They think it's clever. Oh, what a Grateful Dead doing, because they're not playing all that rock pentatonic blues. They're doing something different. It sounds like jazz. It's not, they're just in the Mixolydian mode. It's a major scale, but with a flattened 7th instead of a major 7th. That's all it is. Right, and it has a dominant sound, so it never resolves. Because it never resolves, it has this sort of Indian droney thing. But the icing on the cake is by the time you get to that point, the 2 guitars aren't in tune. That first 10 minutes when they were tuning up, how come they never got it in tune? Now, you're going to turn around to me and say, no, Andy, that start wasn't them tuning up. You're being facetious. But that's what it sounds like. It sounds like an incredibly stoned country band tuning up in a horrible sounding room that's been recorded on 2 mics struck somewhere by an equally stoned sound engineer. That is what the Grateful Dead is to me. I rest my case. 10 minutes on the first one. If you carry on like this, it's going to be another hour, isn't it? Right, at number 8, I have the album Third. I've just bought a box set of Soft Machine, and it is their 3rd album. It's called Third. And it's got Third in it. So I now own 2 copies on CD of Third. Because Third is seen as being Soft Machine's peak, doesn't it? It's this great album, half live, half in the studio. They mixed it all up. It's very good, isn't it? It's got some quirky singing and, you know, Moon in June and all that from Robert Wyatt. And then some incredible sort of angular improvisations mixed with these dense, dark riffs. Now, what I do like about Soft Machine is when they do go into a dark riff in an odd time signature. And I felt that they got better and better as they went on. Okay, so the first album is just a load of, you know, posh boy whimsy. You know, that's what you've got on the first album. And then they start to see what's going on around them. And Pink Floyd are doing something, you know, and they go on tour with Hendrix. And they do the second album. They start to go to this sort of, the most obvious sort of, you know, posh boy jamming. Really is the equivalent of the Grateful Dead, but in like an English version, where everyone's really polite, you know, and they sort of have a sort of English poetical landscape aspect to it, which transfers to me as not being able to solo very well. And that's what it sounds like. In the early days, they're doing all the right things and they're improvising, but they're just not the sort of soloists. They're not got that strength as players. By the time you get to third, it's stitched together in a manner which was possibly in Britain at the time seen as being revolutionary, but it sounds exactly like what Zappa's doing. Zappa's already doing it at that time. And if you go and listen to Uncle Meat, or you go and listen to Weasels Rip My Flesh, or you go and listen to the other one from that period, Burt Winnie Sandwich, that is basically what Soft Machine are doing here times 100. And the other thing is that at the time, Zappa, who was a brilliant engineer, was able to mix this live and studio stuff together in a way that's great. Here, it's glaringly obvious as we cut to very bad live recordings. It was hard to record bands live at this point, you know. Ummagumma, this album, and the Live Dead album all suffer from badly recorded live stuff and then trying to stitch it into the studio. I don't think third's that good. I actually think Soft Machine just slowly evolve into a very good jazz rock, British jazz rock fusion. And when they arrive at being a very good British jazz rock fusion band in the mid-70s, by the time they got there, some of the idiosyncrasies of this dark riffage, you know, is still there. And then it's wonderful because that's what makes them sound different. And there's a heaviness there in what they do, which is similar to what King Crimson's doing, and especially what the Mahavishnu is doing. And that heaviness combined with jazz rock fusion is quite rare, and it's my favourite thing. When they do that, it's brilliant. Now, if you go through the albums, Soft Machine 6, which is is again another attempt to do a sort of double album live and in the studio, is way better. Soft Machine 7 is like the Goldilocks period. They are just burning by that point. But I have to say that the rip-offage that's going on in this band is quite incredible. In the same way as that early stuff is really sounding like what Frank Zappa's doing, there is a track on Soft Machine 7, and I think it's the fourth track, which is a direct rip-off of the tune Follow Your Heart by John McLaughlin. It's exactly the same, except that the John McLaughlin one's in 11 and this is in 9. It's same not only stylistically, it's the same in terms of the chord changes, the movement, the arpeggio. It's exactly the same. And it's based upon the Joe Farrell album version, not the one that you get on Extrapolation. I know they've heard that. All the way through Soft Machine, I'm hearing derivative stuff. I need to actually sit down, go through these albums and point every time I go, well, that's just lifted from there and that's just lifted from there. That is my problem with Soft Machine, but they do get better, and Soft Machine 7 is really great. Bundles after that, brilliant. Softs after that, really brilliant. And even when they get to the middle of the road, Land of Cocaine, I will have that album over any of these early albums. Third, right, I just don't think it's very good. Porn Hearts I don't get. Live Dead is rubbish. Third is not very good, okay? The next album I got at number 7 is a masterpiece. It's Hejira by Joni Mitchell. I love Joni Mitchell, absolutely love her. I think she's the greatest songwriter of one of the greatest songwriters of all time. She takes Bob Dylan's sort of heavy meaning and she combines it with a love of jazz vocals, right? beautiful melodies, and she finds a way to get the wordiness into something that's very sophisticated harmonically. She doesn't fall into the 3-chord trick of a lot of songwriters, which I just don't like. She's much more interested in pursuing a harmonic language which is ambivalent and suspended. She uses suspended chords because her emotions are suspended. She's wonderful. Shadows and Lights, brilliant. All that is brilliant. Now, when I first discovered Joni Mitchell, I first read about her, I found out that there was an album that they'd made and it got Jaco Pastorius on, and it was one of Jaco's greatest albums, Hegira. So I went and bought it, and I just didn't like it. Now, I have warmed to this album now. I have warmed to it. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. When I first heard Hegira, I went, oh, I don't like Joni Mitchell. I'll never listen to her again. And then at some point, I picked up that she did an album called Hits and Misses. I picked up those 2 albums. And the Hits one contained all the early acoustic stuff. Things like, Circle Song, Woodstock, Carousel, all these brilliant tunes, Big Yellow Taxi. And when I heard her singing with either the acoustic guitar or the piano, I was enthralled by it. I didn't like the jazzy stuff. I don't like her jazzy stuff, and I'm going to tell you why I don't like it. Is that I don't like her voice in that context. I don't like her sweet. I love Joni Mitchell's voice, but once she's in this sort of jazz context, she could do it. She could do the notes and do it all, but it sounds soulless. It sounds thin, right? And I don't think, Hegira, if you go a bit earlier when she's working with Tom Scott on the LA Express, there's some funky stuff there. It's really brilliant. But I think she moved on because she wanted to create something that was unresolved in its structure. And Jaco was the genius. I'm selling this album like it's a masterpiece, and it is, because Jaco was able to sort of be like a second voice that ran through. He didn't act as a bass player on this album. He acted as this counterpoint. He was sort of doing the bass end of it, but you never know what chords what. There's no cadence that you do in an established way. A couple of the tunes on there are absolutely beautiful. I would say now, really listen to this album. I like it, but I wouldn't put it on and sink into a realm of bliss like the albums I love. This is an album that I like. I know it's a masterpiece. I know how brilliant everybody is on it, but I don't love it. At number 6, I didn't want to put this one on. It's an album I like, but not that much, to be honest. There's a whole host of reasons. Well, it's by one of my favourite bands, and it's seen as being their greatest album. It's Machine Head by Deep Purple. Right, I absolutely love Deep Purple. Deep Purple are one of the most important bands in history to me. One of the first rock albums that opened my mind, the album, was an album called Deep Purple in Concert, which was a BBC album which was taken from a 1970 gig and a 1972 or 3 gig. The 1970 gig is interesting because there's still echoes of the pre-Ian Gillan Deep Purple sound, which is much more adventurous, much more improvisational, and they're doing things like Mandrake Roots. And it was that stuff that blew me away about Deep Purple. Absolutely blew me away. When you go to the 1972 tour that's covered on that, this is the Machine Head tour. I know that because they played Never Ever Before. They said this is a new song. And Never Ever Before is one of my favourite songs off this album, Machine Head. Now, I'll steelman it. Deep Purple are in a different place until Gillan comes in. They make Deep Purple in rock. It's an absolute masterpiece, and they're doing so much stuff that no one's ever done in heavy metal, right? They then follow that up with Fireball, and Fireball's incredible. It goes and takes it a bit further on. Then they come out with this one, Machine Head. It's got Smoke on the Water. It's better produced, right? It sounds incredible. You know, Fireball sounds a bit thin and weedy, right? But this one sounds incredible. There's these meaty riffs on it. and it's the riff album. It's the peak of the Gillan period. And then as they go on, then Coverdale comes in and they go to a more funky soul thing, which I love, you know, a lot of people love. But this is the classic Deep Purple where Richard Blackmore's still pursuing this hard rocking thing, right? So that's it. And this is the masterpiece. So you look at all the tracks on there. It's got Highway Star on it. It's got Space Trucking on it. What else is on it? Smoke on the Water's on it, right? Now, in reality, when I bought this, I'd been listening to Deep Purple in concert. This BBC album, which had this second disc from this tour. So I was used to the sidelong space trucking that was on this album, where it just went into outer space. Of course, the BBC had recorded it. It sounded great as well. And because this was so great, I'd gone and bought Made in Japan. Made in Japan has got all these tunes on there, and that sounds absolutely great. I've got to be honest, Made in Japan was a letdown after BBC Live in Concert. I just think that's their best album, really, that or Deep Purple in Rock. Now, I absolutely love Deep Purple in Rock. That was the first studio album I bought because there was an abandon to it. There was like a progressiveness. Deep Purple in Rock, Led Zepp 1, and the first Black Sabbath album, and Paranoid, to be more accurate, are as prog as they are heavy metal. And things like Flight of the Rat, things like Speed King, things like Charlie Time seemed like mini epics to me. And they went all over the place. Machine Head wasn't like that. It was just a whole bunch of riffing. Now, the songs that are on there, Highway Star, I don't like it. I just don't like it. It sounds cheesy to me. It's not. I mean, you listen to Bloodsucker. Now, they do that on here. They do it on the second track. Wait, Maybe I'm a Leo. Is that the second track? I don't know this album that well. That's a cool track. I like that. But the thing is with Deep Purple, that Deep Purple in Rock is massively innovative. And then after that, they start becoming derivative. And I hear stuff all over the place. I mean, take Never Ever Before, which was going to be the single. The record company wanted it to be the single. And I think it's better than Smoke on the Water. I don't like Smoke on the Water, right? If you're going to listen to Smoke on the Water, you listen to the Made in Japan album version, the live one. If you're going to listen to Space Truck, I mean, Space Trucking sounds great on here, right? But when he starts going on, you know, about going to Venus and Mars, or it's all so cheesy. There's a cheesiness on this album. Ian Gillan, I know he's got his tongue in his cheek, but he's cheesy, and he's ripping off Robert Plant by this point and doing all Robert Plant's phrases. And there's so much derivative stuff in this. So, for example, I'll give you an actual example of what I mean by derivative. Never Ever Before, right? When it goes after the chorus, it breaks down to a bridge. There's this riff, and it goes like that. Now, of course, that is a direct lift off Day Tripper by the Beatles. Those things are cropping up all the time on Machine Head. It sounds amazing. There's some other tracks there's some shuffly. I'm never like Strange Kind of Woman, which is not on this album, but they always have one of those shuffles. I don't like those either. There's a whole bunch of Deep Purple tunes I really like, but Machine Head hasn't got that many. Right? I love Space Trucking. There's a riff in Space Trucking I love. It's the chorus. But let's go Space Trucking. I love that bit, you know. Highway Star, it's like, I mean, when they did Speed King, they invented that double time heavy metal, you know. They got that. And then on Fireball, which is way better than this, it sounds rubbish, but the rubbish sound of Fireball, I like it because there's an abandon there and they're doing all this mad stuff on there, you know. And when you listen to the opening of Fireball, that's like, my God, there'd be no Quadrant 4 by Billy Cobham, there'd be no Hot for Teacher, there'd be no thrash metal. You know, what Pacey's doing on the drums, that comes in and you hear that like lift shaft or whatever it's going on. It's unbelievable. And then when it kicks in, they are just burning. There's nothing like that on Machine Head. I've done enough on Machine Head. I'm going to move on. Yeah, it's okay. If I put it on, there's about 3 tracks I really like on it. So it's not like, it wouldn't be like, oh, I don't like this album, I don't want to listen to it. But on the whole, those tracks are good. I'm going to go listen to the versions of Machine Head, of Made in Japan. Am I wrong? Doesn't Made in Japan trump Machine Head pretty much? Right, at number 5, I have the album by Captain Beefheart, which I believe is his 3rd album, and it's called Trap Mass Replica. Right? Now, I love Captain Beefheart. I really, really love Captain Beefheart. I love him. When you hear that early stuff like doo-wah diddy, that sort of poppy blues thing he does, I love it. Electricity is like, it's like the antithesis to Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys. And it's monumental. Electricity is incredible. Beefheart, when he goes into the studio to make Trap Mass Replica, the famous album, is just incredible at this point. And he teams up with Frank Zappa, and Frank Zappa produces him. And I think Frank Zappa sees him in the same way as he saw the GTOs or early Alice Cooper, or worse, Wildman Fisher. And he's more interested in creating something that sounds great on paper than an actual great album, right? It's not that this album's too way out for me to listen to. It's not this feels too twang or whatever it is. It's not well produced, right? It's not played well. And the ideas that he's playing with, I don't think are executed in a great way. Remember that, as Zappa famously said, when they got into the studio, they performed not being able to hear each other, and it was all done in one day after something like a year's preparation, which was basically Beefheart starving his bands and only, feeding them on beans. He's like some sort of hippie Pythagoras. I don't think it's very good, right? As once they get past this and they go and do Lick My Decals, all those albums, I mean, the thing with Beefheart is, even the commercials, the stuff he did in the 70s is absolutely wonderful. Every album's a masterpiece, right up to Ice Cream for Crow, Doc at the radio station. And he develops what he's doing, and it's like nuclear physics of rock. He is so advanced, he's the real deal. Now, it's on there, it's not terrible, it's on there, but it's a double album that doesn't sound great and does not execute this stuff. And he doesn't have the fire that band had. I really believe that there's an argument that Trap Mass Replica is not that good. And what's happened is, liked by people who don't actually get what Beefheart's doing, and they just see it like they see Lou Reed's Metal Machine music as just this thing you have to have, which is really way out there. Now, I know people who are very knowledgeable love this album. I know Matt Groening says it's one of his favourite albums, but I don't know whether it was the first time he heard it. I don't know whether people bought this one, because it's the famous one, worked and works and just grew to like it. But would they really say that what's on here is better than what's on Lick My Decals Off, or any of those albums that come straight after? They're way better. They're the masterpieces. So Trap Mass Replica, I should love it, but I think in this case, unlike Porn Hearts, which I don't get, and The Grateful Dead, which is all rubbish and no one's realised it, in this case, right, here is one of my favourite artists, working with Frank Zappa, one of my favourite artists, making the masterpiece album, the double album with the incredible cover. It's all there, but musically, there's certain points, there's certain tracks on there that are okay. That's okay, but it's still it sounds terrible. And Zappa's a brilliant producer. I don't know I think he was taking liberties with Beefheart. I really think he was. I think Beefheart and Zappa, they're two sides of the same coin. And for all of Zappa's intellectual, structural brilliance and avant-garde way out, Beefheart is the same, but like it's inverted, so it's all completely natural, right? I liken it to Coltrane and Ornette Coleman. Coltrane arrived at freedom through understanding the harmonic, through incredible amounts of practice, through taking the harmony, understanding it inside out and busting it out. But Ornette Coleman's just like a court jester, full of play and full of wonder, and it just emanates from him as a person. And this is what you have with Beefheart and Zappa. They're both great. Trap Mass Replica doesn't really, I think, describe the brilliance that is there, and lets Beefheart down and has kept his career back, in posterity. That's what I believe. Right, I'm going to move on to number 4 now. At number 4, I have, by Miles Davis, In a Silent Way. Now, if you go through my videos, you'll go, Andy, you said this is a brilliant album. You said how great it is. You said how important it is. You mentioned it over and over again. Yes, I know this. It is. It's the album. It's the album, right? In a silent way. Miles, you know, it comes out of this sort of bebop era. He comes through cool jazz. He messes with modal jazz. Then he does that Time No Changes, has the classic quintet with Tony Williams, Herbie Hancock. We know all this, all this. And then he starts to look at rock music and he starts to bring those elements in. At first, he starts bringing electric instruments in and then straight pulses. And on Miles in the Sky and Feed the Kilimanjaro, we see the introduction of electric guitar because he's slowly moving towards something. And then in 69, there's this great groundbreaking moment where he invents jazz fusion in a silent way. You know, and John McLaughlin's gone on about he turned up and he didn't know what he was doing. He was on a session and they, you know, play this chord progression that George Zawinul's written. Okay, then, and he's trying to read it. And then, oh, there, but I just want you to play all that with one chord. Oh, I don't know what's going. The red light's on. Oh, we're making history. Oh, my God. You know, without In a Silent Way, there's no John McLaughlin. Without no John McLaughlin, there's no Bavish Nuxia. There's no jazz rock fusion. This is the album. How can you say this, Andy? I'll tell you why. Because, okay, it just never gets out of second gear. And first and second gear on this album is really hissy. It just sounds... Bitches Brew sounds incredible. Jack Johnson sounds good. This one does it. It's full of hiss. What's going on? What's going on is they were cutting tapes for the first time and Tia Bakera's doing these edits and it's the hisses got in there. Right, and this is right. I don't like it in Silent Way. The only bit I like is that riff. I say I don't like it. I love the chord progression. But the thing is, here, in a Silent Way, the composition, right, is incredible. It's done way better on Zawinul's first solo album. Way better. You start to see the beauty of that tune. Miles destroys that in the aid of his sort of innovative moving forward thing, right? Peaceful. So I don't really like that. It's just the hi-hat's going on for ages. It's like he's trying to invent house music in 1969. I know he is, but he just doesn't quite get there. When the riff comes in and Tony Williams opens up the that's brilliant. I love that bit. That's the bit I want, you know. Well, that's great. You like that though. You do like it. Yeah, I do like it. I just don't love it. In the 90s, Bill Laswell came along, took a whole bunch of Miles Davis recordings and he remixed them. And he cut down this album to a track which is about 10, 20 minutes long, The In a Silent Way. That shows you what this album should have been like. It's not Miles' fault. The producers and the engineers, and they didn't understand where he was going. This sort of ambient, electric jazz, dubby bass thing that he was moving towards at this point. The darkness that was there. He does it later on. He's like Bitches Brew does it. And on Big Fun, there's stuff on there which is only in first and second gear, but it's just truly incredible. On Get Up With It, you know, he loved him badly. This sort of ambient thing that he's pursuing, which is definitely here. This is a massively important album. It's massively innovative, and it's a very beautiful album. I just don't like it because it's hissy, right? Because there's like loads of filler on it. I think, and this is the other thing. Tony Williams didn't want to be there at that point. You could just tell. It's the last album he did. He wanted to go off and do something else. And I think he dials it in. I think he turned up to these sessions and I don't think he just wanted out. And so he just sits there going, and the hi-hats for ages. Go and check out Feed the Kilimanjaro. It's on fire. It's like that is recorded better and it is basically in a silent way, but on fire. Let's move on. At number 3, I have Asia by Steely Dan. I like the earlier Steely Dan better. I like the early stuff when they're a pop band. They're a really cool pop band. They're quite funky and twangy. There's a vibe going on and they seem more like a band. They're not the greatest band in the world, but it's quite sophisticated, a bit like the Doobie Brothers, you know, there's a whole bunch of, people doing that type of stuff. And then they go up their own arse, don't they, Steely Dan, and they get all pretentious and all beatniky, they sack everybody off, and they discover that if you hire session musicians, they do amazing things, which they do, and they bring them all in. And they start making, towards the end of the 1970s, these sort of jazz rock fusion albums, pulling on the sort of Fusac thing that's going on. So musicians that were playing on Grover Washington albums and, George Benson albums, those types of players, Steely Dan bring in. And so you basically have an album like that, but with, Donald Fagen's sort of moany voice, talking about some beatnik, I'm really cool and hate the whole world, and all that sort of stuff. And they're a little bit seedy for me. Anyway, is it 78, this album? 77, actually, I think. They go in and they do this album, Asia, and it's become legendary. Rick Beato has spent the last couple of years trying to interview everybody that is involved on that album. Hi, so I'm so proud and blown away to have Mr. here in the studio right now. I can't believe it, because when I was coming up, when I was at college, when I was a college professor, jazz professor, I could play all the jazz chords, I could know them all, but the album I loved, it was Asia by Steely Dan. And I've just got in contrast with Mr. Safkowski here, and he was working in the recording studio, and he was like he'd go in and tidy up, sweep up, and do all that type of thing. So, Mr. Safkowski, what was it like there? Well, it was. I would go in there with some bunch of musicians. They seemed like they were on stuff. I mean, there was one drummer there. I don't know who he was, but he turned up. He seemed to be. He was off his head, And I can remember there was loads of jugs going on. But they were very messy, especially Donald Fagen. Very messy. What the hell's this accent I'm doing? What accent is Mr. Safkowski? This is not a well-developed character. Should I just move away? Right, so Rick Beato loves it, that's the point, and gets a bit annoying, This is the cat. This is the cat that was the studio cat when they made Asia. You're doing that, Rick, with your mouth because he's dead and stuffed. Oh, shut up, it's the cat, it's the cat. It's the Steely Dan cat. Right, so right, Asia's good, the drum solo, Steve Gadd does. I learnt it once. Wayne Shorter coming in, don't tell me the key, I'm Wayne Shorter, I'll just play any old notes and just goes up and down chromatically till he finds the key and then starts playing. Michael McDonald coming in and doing all those incredible backing vocals on Peg. I know the album inside out, right? I like it, it's good. It's good album. I got Larry Carlton albums that are like it, I've got a whole bunch of albums like Steve Kahn is even more sophisticated in the composition Steve Kahn is. But what they haven't got is Donald Fagen singing over the top. And what it is that people that can't even take sort of late 70s Fusac middle of the road jazz, they need a vocal on there. And then not only that, if they like Steely Dan, it gives them this extra I'm intellectual. When really you just listen to a whole bunch of Fusac, brilliant Fusac with some great playing. But don't think Gadd has did something to reinvented the wheel. Go and check him out on the Leprechaun by Chick Corea or Three Quartets. If you want to hear Gadd doing something, go and listen to doing it. He was dialing that in that day. Oh, it's incredible. It is incredible. Steve Gadd. They hired Steve Gadd, like about 300 people. Gadd can't even remember any of these sessions. He was so off his head. Around about this time, exactly this time, in fact, Weather Report needed a drummer, and he turns up. And he plays on track, he's on Mr. Gone, right? Now, he was gone, and what did Joe Zawinul say about him? He said, he called him a junkie mother effer. Zawinul wasn't going to have it. I love Steve Gadd, he's the man. But they're hiring brilliant players. And then the anal retentiveness of having to bring in like 80 guitarists until Jay Graydon comes and does that guitar solo. Oh, he got the guitar solo right. Who bloody cares? Whichever one they'd have, we'd all be humming it and thinking it was great. Just get Larry Carlton in. He can know how to. They know how to do it. They all know how to do it. Oh, but we're just waiting around because we got the money. We got the money. They're perfection heads. They're anal retentive. They're seedy, men that are just. I feel that there's something not right. They're like pretentious and seedy, Steely Dan are. The playing's incredible. These really interesting songs. It's great. Do I love this album? No. And I know why people like it. And I know why when I criticise Steely Dan, and because people come on and go, Andy knows about music, but he's an idiot now because he's criticised Steely Dan. Because people who like Steely Dan, they're like Steely Dan, and they have a precipice. It's pretentious. Prog's not pretentious. Steely Dan's pretentious. It's all beat poetry and being the snidey one at school and being the outsider. I'm the outsider, and I'm all cool and I'm all like this and this and this, and I'm going to sing a song about living in LA and being all erudite, and it's all that. It's all pretentious. They're pretentious. Musically, there is brilliant stuff on here. And I like it. If I put this album on, I'd like it. But that's it. I'm going to move on from there. I've done a whole video and it was so popular. Everyone really hated me when I said, And then I said, I like them. but I don't love them. And Asia, I like it, but I don't love it. You have to love it. Andy, what are you on about? We're going to hate you forever now. They're like lefties. They react in the same way. Right, that's all I hate about lefties. It's not their politics I hate. It's the fact that they are so condescending and so like, oh, now I can't listen to you anymore, but get off the politics. I've got a nice chair. Look at the chair I've got, everybody. I went and got this chair. You can't really see it. It's like the chair. I got it off a Mastermind. Look, can you see the chair? Got this lovely chair. I thought that'll be good. Like a Mastermind chair. Right. But it's bloody noisy, isn't it? I've just realised. I've fixed the fan in my computer, so I haven't got that whistling away in the background. And now I'm going to repeat it with there'll be people messaging me saying, oh, Andy, I can't take it. I listen to your videos on headphones and it makes me go all weird because I can hear the creaky chair, And probably Steely Dan fans. Right, number 2. I have not only an album, but a film. It all comes together by my idol, Frank Zappa. I'm talking about 200 Motels. This was this morning. I thought, I'll do this list. An album. So, is there any albums by John McLaughlin I don't like? I like them all. I love them all. Miles Davis, I don't really like In a Solid Way. Should I put that one on? But I decided that a long time ago. I knew I felt like that. And then Zappa. And I thought, I don't like the Flo and Eddie band. Should I put on just another band from LA or like the film? And then I thought, well, what about 200 Motels? Now, I'll say on here, it's great, right? I don't own it. And the reason I don't own it is because I'm sure they've remastered it, but back when I was a kid, it wouldn't sound very good. Watch the film, it just doesn't sound very good. He's got an orchestra in, he's got Flo and Eddie, he's got Ringo Starr in there. It's Zappa doing everything he could do. So the reason I didn't have the album is because I had the video. As soon as 200 Motels came out, I was like, oh my God, Zappa's film's come out. I'm the biggest Zappa fan in the world. He made an actual film, in the 1970s. He made a film, 200 Motels. I've read about it. It sounds amazing. It's got Ringo Starr in it and Theodore Beichels in it. Theodore Beichels in it as well. You won't believe it. So I went and got this film. And this film is very innovative because it was shot on video. It looks bloody horrible, right? And it's all psychedelic colours, and it's just horrible. And then you've got some orchestral stuff. It's good, but I don't like it. And then the band's not very good. Flo and Eddie really get on my nerves. There was that one track where Zappa plays some good guitar riffs. Is it called Magic Finger or so? I can't remember. And he does a good guitar solo. That was the only bit in the film I liked. And there was this like cartoon bit where he goes, I'm eating the room. And I quite like that bit. Right? It's not because it's too weird. It's like, it's just 200 Motels is not very good. It's like, nobody would go, oh my God, Zappa's a genius. Go and check 200 Motels out. Even though all that money, effort was put into it. They got an orchestra there. They've got a choir there in a TV studio. They've got all these guest stars. This should have been the Purple Rain for Zappa, and it wasn't, was it? It just wasn't. And the reason is because it's not very good. And the reason is because he made it. If the Mothers of Invention had made an album, that would have been amazing. And a film. And if the George Duke band would have made, that would have been. But that band, Zappa's flapping around, and we have to say thank God that bloke pushed him off that bloody stage. I don't blame him. Probably seen 200 Motels because it stopped him in his tracks, and he had to rethink. He was going down an avenue with that band, the Flo and Eddie band, right? He was chasing commerciality in a way that I don't think was very good. Right, I don't think the band was that good either. It's more chops than the Mothers, but not the sort of chops you get with the later bands. But without the character of the Mothers, I just don't think this is a good period. And he happens to make a mainstream feature film at that point, and I don't think it's very good. And the Attendant album is okay. It's the best of the Flo and Eddie albums. It's a double album, but he's the tunes on there that are beautiful Zappa tunes are done better elsewhere. 200 Motels is just not. It's okay. I don't love it. I should love it, but I don't think anyone does, do they? No Zappa fan ever mentions it. Let's move on to number 1. This will be really short because, of course, I've done a whole video on it. It has to be number 1. It is the worst album ever made. It's Astral Weeks by Van Morrison. Right. All my life, people have said, you should listen to Astral Weeks by Van Morrison. Why? Well, you know Van Morrison? Yeah, I do. Do you like him? Yeah, Moondance is all right. Quite like Moondance, yeah. It's all right. Yeah, would you like a Brown Eyed Girl? No, I hate that. No, I hate that. What about Baby Please Don't Go? That's all right. There's some songs I like, you know. Well, I'll tell you, imagine Van Morrison. Do you think he's quite a good singer? Well, he's all right. A bit growly, isn't he? A bit shouty. He's all right. So, anyway, in 1968, he went into New York into this studio, and they got the Modern Jazz Quartet, really. Yeah, they got Connie Kay in for the Modern Jazz Quartet. They got Richard Davis, you know him, the jazz bass player. Oh, that sounds really good. They got him in, a bunch of jazz musicians, and they just improvised this album, like this sort of modal jazz album, but all based around Van Morrison songs. Oh, God, this sounds really good. Yeah, it's really incredible. And it's just really modal, really simple harmonic things, and then he's improvising the vocal. It's really, you got to go and check it out. And I did. I did it for this channel. Put it in the car. I thought I'll listen to this for a week and then pass my opinion on it. By Wednesday, I couldn't take it anymore. It's rubbish. And everybody that got in my car, all different people go, what the hell are you listening to? This is terrible. Switch it off. I know it is terrible. It's just terrible. Right. There's a thing I will Astral bloody Weeks. Right, and I haven't softened my view. I've gone back and listened to it again. There's one track that's okay, like a normal song, and it's okay. Like Van Morrison's going to say, I could have done a good song if I wanted, but couldn't be arsed because I'm a grumpy, horrible, bloody, ugly little goblin. Right? That's who I am. I'm an ugly little goblin. And I went in there and I thought I'll just do any album because my fan base, even though it's grumpy and horrible and ugly and I just growl, they think what I do is brilliant. People think what Van Morrison does is brilliant. Right? This is the emperor's new clothes. The trouble with rock and roll emerges at the same time as postmodernism. And everything that they say is good is no good. It's just the emperor's new clothes. And nobody wants to say anything. The greatest achievements in pop music and rock music is bands like Earth, Wind and Fire and Michael Jackson. That's where the quality is. All this nonsense that people go on about, all this songwriter nonsense, it's a load of rubbish, right? It's a load of rubbish. It was a load of just hippie dropout druggies that were starting to listen to Bob Dylan albums because they can't deal with listening to John Coltrane. You know, and they all nodded along to it. And they all, you know, so many blokes chatted up women by putting a Bob Dylan album and talking, waxing lyrical about his lyrics. It's the equivalent of, you know, showing them your etchings, right? It's the Emperor's New Clothes, and that's it. And that's what I'm going to uncover. 45 minutes on this, Andy. You were supposed to do 30 minutes. I'm done. That's the video. Those were the bands, the albums that I love. No, those were the 10 albums that I should love. I got myself worked up now. I'm best off not thinking about it. I went to the doctor. They said, don't talk about Astral Weeks or Van Morrison. Well, I have to. He keeps coming up on my channel. Just you don't have to talk about it. Nobody wants you to. I know, and they don't want me to. But I have to keep going back. It's like trauma. It's like trauma, it is. God, it's terrible. I feel like that bloke in the Dead Zone. Because instead of, Martin Sheen being like a mass murdering president in the future, it's Van Morrison. He just keeps coming back all the time. Haunted me. Like the Headless Horseman. I wish someone would chop his head off. You wouldn't have to look at his horrible, pudgy, pink corned beef face, would you? And his horrible teeth. His teeth look horrible. And I imagine he's got bad breath. There's something I don't like about Van Morrison, and I don't feel wrong in criticising him because he's rich. I'm rubbing my legs now. You can't say I'm rubbing my legs up there to comfort myself. He's bloody rubbish, and then some people's going to go, hey, you haven't listened to that album. You haven't listened to the one that... I'm spitting everywhere because I'm salivating with anger. I'm going. Bye-bye.